Three brothers trained under one master. One betrayed the other, framing him for murder and stealing their empire. Years later, when their crippled mentor chooses suicide over surrender, and a pregnant woman dies fighting for the man she loves, winning becomes the ultimate revenge. An upcoming tournament is their only chance to avenge their mentor's death and reclaim their honor. But in the cutthroat world of gambling, nothing is as it seems. As the stakes grow higher and the line between friend and foe blurs, the cost of victory may prove too steep to bear. Before we dive into this brutal world of betrayal and revenge, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss any of my deadly gambling recaps. Alright, let's get into it. The film opens on a casino boat owned by a man named Fan. Passengers board for a night of gambling. During the games, a man cheats, winning every bet. K, Fan's loyal subordinate, alerts the manager, Chicken Feet. Chicken Feet exposes the scam and chases the man out, empty-handed. Though a skilled gambler, Chicken Feet has yet to reach the level required for the upcoming Asia gambling tournament. Everyone, including Fan, is committed to training him, but Fan fears he's not ready. Chicken Feet, determined to improve, knows his only chance is to step up, especially since he's replacing Kit, Fan's top gambler and Asian's #1, who's currently incarcerated. Though Fan is doubtful, he has no choice but to rely on Chicken Feet to represent them. Years ago, Chicken Feet, Kit, and James were all apprentices under Fan, with Kit and James being the most skilled. Fan once took them to Osaka to face the great gambler Taro Yamamoto. But things take a turn when James betrays Fan, colluding with Yamamoto. Despite this, Kit wins the round after they've all staked a fortune. Enraged, Yamamoto lunges at James, but before he can act, James kills him with a stab to the stomach. In the ensuing chaos, Chicken Feet arrives to protect Fan. Fan and Kit jump off a building in a desperate escape. Fan breaks his leg in the fall, and James catches up to them and knocks out Kit, framing him for Yamamoto's murder. Chicken Feet manages to carry the injured Fan to safety just before the police arrive. Soon after, James seizes control of Fan's casino ship. Knowing James' ruthlessness, Fan and Chicken Feet avoid a direct confrontation, instead starting a small gambling boat. Back in the present, Chicken Feet and his girlfriend Lynn visit the site of Fan's former ship, now under James's control. He recalls the good old days when Fan had much to teach him, but with Fan crippled, his abilities are now limited. Chicken Feet wishes he could go in and destroy everything, but Lynn urges him to move on, focusing on the present rather than what could have been. James pays a visit to Fan's ship, demanding a jade to help him win the upcoming tournament. Fan mocks him, pointing out his limited skills. James, jealous of Kit's superior gambling abilities, had framed him for murder to eliminate his competition. With the tournament fast approaching, James is desperate to win and is willing to go to any lengths to make it happen. Fan refuses to give him the jade, suggesting it would be easier for James to kill him instead. Legend has it that before the god of gamblers retired, he gave out 2 pieces of jade. Whoever possesses it can request the god's help in becoming a champion. But the whereabouts of one jade remains unknown. Drunk one night, Fan admitted to having it. On their way back, Chicken Feet and Lynn run into James and his men leaving the site. Fan refuses to explain what James wanted, saying that in time, Chicken Feet will understand. He hands him a briefcase and orders him to deliver it to a man named Gut, stressing that the delivery is crucial. On the way, Lynn grows curious, suggesting they open the briefcase, but Chicken Feet insists they leave it closed. Upon arrival, the location is empty. Chicken Feet suggests they wait, unsure whether Gut has simply not arrived yet. Meanwhile, Kay takes Fan to the cemetery to pay respects to his late wife. As they leave, James' henchmen, who've been tailing them, block their path and escort them to James. Fan is disgusted by the state of his ship. James hasn't even bothered to maintain it. James mocks him, challenging Fan to come manage it himself, infuriating him. When James offers pay him off for the ship, Fan snaps, reminding him it's his ship, not for sale. James, cutting to the chase, demands the jade, but Fan scoffs, refusing to hand it over. The situation escalates when James draws a gun on Fan. K steps in to protect him, but James shoots him in the hand. K lunges at James, but his henchmen attack, beating and torturing him before hanging him. Amid the chaos, Fan, wheeling himself toward the edge of the boat, jumps into the water before James's men can reach him, killing himself. Back at the location, Chicken Feet and Lin wait anxiously. When Chicken Feet steps out, Lin seizes the chance and peeks into the briefcase. To their shock, it contains only 2 chunks of wood. Realizing they've been played, they rush back to their boat, only to find Fan's lifeless body and their boat destroyed. Kit is released from prison and learns of Fan's death from a newspaper on his flight back to Hong Kong. Upon arriving at Fan's funeral, Kit faces a blockade of James's thugs, preventing anyone from paying respects. Even in death, James continues to torment Fan, refusing people to mourn him. Only Chicken Feet and Lin are left to grieve him. The thugs try to stop Kit from entering, but he pushes past them, determined to pay his respects. Chicken Feet hopes that together they will avenge Fan's death, but Kit drops a bombshell. He's leaving gambling and the rough life behind for good. Kit's ex-girlfriend Mui arrives and informs Kit that Fan sent a telegraph to her to deliver to him, but Kit brushes it off, uninterested. As Kit exits the funeral home, a wealthy casino owner, Mr. Jung, approaches. He offers Kit $10 million to deliberately lose in the Asia gambling tournament. Jung is betting on James to win. Kit assures him he won't participate, but Jung insists he keep the offer in mind. Kit heads to his ex-wife's place to pick up their daughter, Yan Yan, only to find that she's abandoned the child with his cousin and married Pao, James' obnoxious right-hand man. At his cousin's home, Kit is devastated by the sight of his daughter chained and treated like an animal by his weak cousin's wife. He breaks the chain angrily and leaves with her, taking her to a restaurant where he buys her food, slowly gaining her trust. Kit begins working as a bartender at his friend's pub Lin and Chicken Feet visit, but they don't approach him. They only watch him in silence, feeling his pain. Mui is also there, surprised by Kit's transformation. She had broken up with him years ago when he chose gambling over everything else, but now, seeing his dedication to his daughter, she's relieved he's made a change. One night, Paul and James's henchmen trash the pub, beating Kit's friend when he tries to stop them. They also abduct Yan Yan. Kit's ex-wife, who's under Pao's control, warns Kit that Chicken Feet wants to confront James after learning about the kidnapping. She urges him to be careful, warning that Pao is dangerous. Kit, cold and detached, tells her to worry about herself and walks away. Meanwhile, Lin tries to stop Chicken Feet from confronting James, fearing for his life. She fights him, even threatening to break up with him, but he doesn't relent. He arrives at James' office only to be attacked by henchmen. In a fit of rage, Chicken Feet fights back, taking down every one of them. He barges into James' office and demands that James release Yan Yan. She shouldn't be caught in the middle of their grudge. James, with a smirk, challenges Chicken Feet to a blackjack match. If Chicken Feet wins, he'll leave with Yan Yan. If he loses, he must walk away in his underwear. Chicken Feet accepts the challenge, but James tricks him. Furious at his failure, Chicken Feet storms out of the office. Just as Kit arrives, Kit approaches James, pleading with him to stop. James, cold and determined, says he can't. He'll do whatever it takes to keep Kit out of the tournament. As the top Asian gambler, he cannot allow Kit to compete. Kit promises he has no intention of entering, but James doesn't believe him. In a desperate move, Kit cuts off his own hand, showing his resolve without hesitation. Outside, Lin waits in the rain for Chicken Feet. She sees him walking out of the building in nothing but his underwear. She rushes to him, offering her coat, but he refuses, still angry at himself for failing to rescue Yan Yan. The tension between them boils over in a heated yet endearing argument. Finally, Chicken Feet accepts the coat and forcefully takes Lin into a comforting hug. Just then, Yan Yan appears, crying. She explains that her father cut his hand. Chicken Feet rushes to his aid. With everything that's happened, Chicken Feet, Kit, and Lin are forced to close their gambling boat and start fresh with a fast food restaurant to escape the turmoil. Mui helps care for Yan Yan, and for a time, it seems like life has settled into a peaceful routine. But Chicken Feet remains restless, his frustration bubbling beneath the surface. His short temper is easily triggered by rude, entitled customers, and Lin struggles to calm him down. Her patience is stretched thin as his anger spirals out of control, leaving her helpless and frustrated. Mui soon arrives at the restaurant, bringing Yan Yan back from school. The little girl excitedly recounts the fun she had that day. Mui asks Kit how things are going, and he assures her that all is well and peaceful. But Mui notices Chicken Feet's growing frustration. She sees how deeply he's affected by the inability to avenge Fan's death. She also shares that Lin is pregnant with Chicken Feet's child, but she's afraid to tell him, given his current state. Afterwards, Lin pleads with Mui to find the items Fan had sent through the telegraph. There could be something that'll help Chicken Feet. The two set out together to uncover the mystery. Meanwhile, Chicken Feet, sitting at the rooftop, spots James's henchmen tailing Lin and Mui. Huff follows them, determined to keep them safe. The two women eventually arrive at the cemetery Fan had visited before his death. There, they uncover the number from the telegraph, which corresponds to a tombstone where Fan had hidden the jade tablet along with a letter inside a small metal box. Chicken Feet arrives, warning them they're being followed. He tells Lin and Kit's ex-girlfriend to take the jade and letter and leave, while he takes another route with the empty box and lead the henchmen on a chase to throw them off. Lin refuses to leave him, but he forces her to go with Mui, knowing it's the only way to protect them. As they drive off, Lin asks Mui to deliver the jade and letter to Kit, wanting to help Chicken Feet. Meanwhile, Chicken Feet is surrounded by James' henchmen. Pow demands that Chicken Feet toss over the box. Reluctantly, Chicken Feet does so. As Pa goes to retrieve it, Lin arrives, driving a car straight into Pow, killing him instantly. Chicken Feet seizes one of the henchmen's guns and kills several of them before jumping into the car. As they try to escape, Lin crashes the car into the water, injuring her leg in the process. They swim to a nearby boat, and Chicken Feet helps Lin tie off her injured leg. Just then, they spot James and more henchmen closing in. Chicken Feet readies his gun, urging Lin to get on the boat and escape, but she refuses to leave without him. Their argument intensifies, and in a moment of desperation, Chicken Feet pushes her into the boat. As he unties it, Lin knocks him unconscious with a paddle, causing him to fall into the boat, letting him sail away, determined to face James and his men on her own. She opens fire on James and his henchmen, but they capture her. James demands to know where Chicken Feet is, but Lin denies knowing his whereabouts. They hit her with planks and drown her in an attempt to force her to speak. Chicken Feet regains consciousness and charges back to the scene to behold the nightmare. In a rage, he crashes into James's henchmen with the boat, causing an explosion. As he fights off the remaining thugs to reach Lin, James hits him in the eyes with a fluorescent lamp, but it doesn't deter him. Chicken Feet dives into the water, determined to rescue Lin. As the explosion intensifies, James and his men retreat. Chicken finds Lin's lifeless body and pulls her to the surface, laying her on the pier. He desperately tries to resuscitate her, but it's too late. Lin is gone. Chicken Feet, broken and devastated, is left to mourn her death, the love of his life lost forever in the wake of the violence and greed surrounding them. Meanwhile, Kit reads Fan's letter, which encourages him to join the tournament for revenge. Fan has left $20 million for him to participate in the Asia gambling tournament and use the jade tablet if necessary. But Kit, in a moment of defiance, throws the money into the water, rejecting Fan's wishes. Ignoring his earlier words, Chicken Feet, assisted by Mui's and Kit, enters the Asia gambling tournament, making it to the finals alongside James and a fourth competitor. In the grand finale, Mr. Young approaches Kit to remind him of his request. Kit acknowledges it with a nod. The game begins, and soon enough, one contestant is eliminated, leaving only James, Kit, and Chicken Feet. As the game intensifies, Chicken Feet and Kit slow play, feigning weak hands while actually holding strong cards. They let James aggressively bet, passing repeatedly to allow him to push more of his money into the pot. Eventually, Chicken Feet and Kit raise the stakes so high that James is forced to pass. Kit, however, deliberately loses the round to honor his agreement with Jung, leaving Chicken Feet and James for the final showdown. In the final battle, Chicken Feet calls for a show of hand, betting a massive amount, including the jade tablet and his own life and James' life, as the rules allow it. After a tense moment, James, considering the risks, folds, conceding defeat. Chicken Feet wins the tournament. To add insult to injury, he shows James his last hand, proving he won fair and square. In a final act of humiliation, Chicken Feet reveals he used a fake jade to deceive James, leaving him utterly defeated. Kit, playing the part of the gracious victor, pretends to reconcile with James in front of Jung, suggesting they put their grudges behind them and return to the way things once were. Meanwhile, Jung, nearly having a heart attack over James's loss, is further distressed when Mr. Chung reveals that James had bet $5 million on himself to lose Jung. Furious, berates James for throwing the game. James snaps back, asking if Jung wanted him to stake his life, and promises to pay back the money he lost. But before he can make good on his word, Jung's henchmen execute him as he exits the tournament. In the aftermath, Chicken Feet leaves Hong Kong temporarily to avoid retaliation from those who lost money on his victory. While returning from seeing Chicken Feet off, Kit is shot by Jung's assassins. As Mui arrives with Yan Yan to pick him up, Kit climbs into the car, and only then does Mui realize he's been shot. Kit, with great effort, tells Mui to drive on. Yan Yan, blissfully unaware, hugs her father. Kit, weak and fading, smiles faintly, telling her he's tired and wants to rest. Yan Yan, innocent and joyful, tells him to sleep a little, oblivious to the fact that he will sleep forever. Moi fights to hold back her tears, determined not to let Yan Yan see her father's condition as she drives away into an uncertain future.